charge of that? So maybe someone listening that would be maybe this person here that's interested in...
The ordinance officer, Tony Gray.
Tony who?
Tony Gray.
Tony Gray. All right.
Okay. That's all he does now is ordinance enforcement.
So, that said, though, Tony's one guy. He's taking orders from his boss, Dale, and tone from the board. I mean, part of it has to do is you have to build a consensus on the board to be willing to go down that road. And it was pretty painful, but I remember very clearly, I still saved a few of the emails that I received from fellow Ford employees who were kind of like queued up by a group of activists about it. Their kind of choice. It came printed out. But yeah, you have to remember that stuff happens, and so once you start making a variance of not enforcing an ordinance once, it becomes almost impossible to keep enforcing it, which is kind of...
During my first term, Roger, and you'll remember this also, there were people on East River Road removing the sidewalks.
Yep.
So they didn't ask, they just pulled them out.
So let's do our homework on this and see, how we can follow up to find out, if it's being enforced, if it's not, maybe it's not applicable in this specific case, but, if it is applicable and it's not being enforced, find out why and see if there's ways to either increase enforcement on this issue or find another solution for filling in these gaps. Perhaps we could be looking at something where the builder puts money into a pot, basically it's a fee to begin with, and the township comes in afterwards and puts in the sidewalk. But there's other creative ways that we might be able to accomplish this, but I think we really owe it to ourselves to investigate this further.
How about temporary? Can you put plywood temporary? That way they have a guide, a path to go on?
No.
Temporary?
That doesn't match any township code either.
Yeah, there are temporary sidewalks and things that are done in lieu of construction detours, but they have to meet specific stringent standards to meet Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA guidelines. And in this case, it would be more of a semi-permanent solution, so I'm not sure that plywood would be the most attractive solution. But thanks for thinking about that. We've got to start somewhere. Anything else? Great. Moving on to old business. First a report about our budgets. For those of you at home that are not familiar, this commission was responsible for two separate funds. One was a capital fund for constructing new projects. The other one was a maintenance fund. When we finished working on the horse mill path, we had depleted all of the capital funds and actually had a partnership with DPS to use some of their drainage funds, as well as borrowed some money from the Metro account. That's basically fees that the utility companies pay to the township in order to when their trucks come onto our property, that they potentially damage paths or damage other township property, that it pays for that. So we have depleted the capital fund completely. And as of earlier this year, we had about $250,000 in our maintenance budget. But since then, we have been redoing the paths. We've helped pay for a new lawnmower. We've been redoing some of the bridges with maintenance work, as well as refinishing them. So I talked to Ann Darsnick today, and she said we had about $230,000 in the maintenance account, and she'll be providing an itemized breakdown of the actual budget in the near future. It'll also include more of a historical record on where the monies came from specifically for our horse mill pathway. Is there any questions about the budget?
Many years ago, we voted to have millage for the bike path. When does it expire?
It already expired. We don't have any...
No more
capital fund.
We have no capital, and the millage is, at least to my knowledge, we do not have incoming new funds coming into the millage fund. Coming into the maintenance fund. So whatever we had, I believe it was about 2 or 3 years ago, that the millage expired, and we have not put anything on the ballot to actually
I
renew that
never
millage.
rejected.
It's still valuable and still collecting. I think this is its last year. We might be well-served to start working on renewing that maintenance budget. I don't think you could pass, in my opinion, a capital budget, but you certainly have a lot of people who want to take care of what we own. And if you recall, a couple meetings ago, and even last meeting, I had talked about taking a survey. Let's get a look at what we've got in bike paths to get some crack sealing done and some remilling. I think Gore Road is probably the worst section of bike paths that we have, in my opinion. You can't fix that stuff unless you've got an ongoing source of repair revenue, and that's what we're going to have to push for.
Can't agree with you more, Wally. So since you're talking about your maintenance of the path, do we have any updates on the existing items that were left over from the construction of the horse mill path, as well as...
Several of the horse mill path ponds were repaired, and if you've been past the gas station lately, you'll see tremendous changes over there. If you remember last time, I think I said that the path was suspect because we thought we had a failing sewer. And it turns out that the sewer was in good shape, but that is a very natural low spot. So the water continued to puddle, and water freezing and thawing on asphalt is about the worst thing you can do to it. That's even harder on it than driving on it. So
I saw the throat of the driveway, the apron, basically the part between the path and Meridian was actually redone.
That's
Last time I
correct.
checked, the path itself had not been redone.
the path is ready to be done as I speak. The area of old asphalt that was all torn up is completely removed, and new shall be in there probably in days. The thing that I noticed about the repair to the driveway, the throat from the road to the gas station, is that they sloped it nicely to a new sewer, which we put in, and then the drainage ditch drains around the new concrete very well, and now we got a nice puddle on the south entrance. We need to get back into there and do some more digging and relieve the water there. If you go there after rain, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. It looks just like the other side. I haven't brought that up to anybody, but I will.
I was kind of surprised they only did the one, because the other one, that looks, it was, albeit a little bit better than the other one, but it still was pretty bad. And who did that? Did the owner of the station do that?
Nope,
We did.
we did.
Which funds were used for the driveway then?
Maintenance funds from bike path and sewer funds.
To do the driveway?
Both.
You lost me there. So the funds in order to do that apron were used from the bike path as well as the...
From the bike path and from the sewage fund, that's correct.
So these are additional monies than what was authorized for the maintenance project, the maintenance of the Meridian path? Or was this part of like the punch list that the contract?
Kind of a punch list of what we've been planning on doing. No surprise there. We knew it had to be done. Our question was, do we do it in all asphalt, or do we do it in concrete and put the bike path back and connect to the gas? I think the gas station contributed a couple $1,000 to it.
I'm just wondering why the bike path maintenance fund was used for the apron of the driveway when the driveway is specifically for the...
I think that you're kind of mincing on words there. Both of those funds were used, and I don't know how much of each was used, but both of them together got accomplished what we wanted to get accomplished.
Okay, because I'm forgetting about the drainage fund that you're speaking of. Okay. Does anyone else have any comments on that?
Was that something that was bid out, or was that under the threshold of being needed to be bid
It
out?
was unit pricing, not needing to be bid out.
Okay. Do you have a ballpark idea what that whole project cost? Just to get an idea what it would cost?
Roger, right off the top of my head, I don't know. He's not done, he hasn't billed us.
Okay.
maybe we can talk a little bit more about this, offline in the future, just to look at it, and see what can be learned from it. As far as the bridges, has all the bridge work that was planned to be redone on the...
No, it's in progress. The Royal Road Bridge, I think, is very close to being done. The Southern Bridge on Meridian across from the school he's been there, and I don't know what he's done because I haven't gone into my car to see it. He has not yet touched the big bridge, but he'll get them all done. He's a tedious but a careful woodworker. He'll make the bridges look good again. In the spring, we're going to ask for bids for cleaning the bridges again and sealing them different. I don't like the way they look. I think they look very blotchy, the way they've been done. And we also have done some damage to the bridges with pressure washers. When you hit a soft pine with a pressure washer, it just digs the areas between the annular rings right out. And that's not good for it.
Is there any consideration of replacing the wood with something more permanent?
No. That would be prohibitive in cost. You can't replace a board with a piece of Trex, because then you got a hodgepodge, and it's just not going to work.
When the support isn't adequate for Trex, you have to have it 10 inches on the center with your supports, and that bridge wasn't built that way, so structurally it wouldn't be a good idea to do.
Maybe it's a good idea to look at, what's the lifespan of the bridge, and then, start planning for what you do, hopefully in the far future, 10, 15 years out, about replacing that bridge.
They're talking about another 30 years on those bridges. They're not in bad shape, but it takes vigilance. When you have a wooden structure, you've got to take care of it. And we frankly haven't done it. We give it a 1, 2, 3 quick wash and spray some stuff on it, walk away, and we're all proud of ourselves, and the bridge is starting to deteriorate. So this spring, we're going to spend a little bit more than $2,600 for 3 bridges. But we're going to clean them right, and we're going to get them resealed right.
Great. Okay, brick selling campaign.
Here, here.
I want to commend everyone on this commission, especially Erin over here, who's been leading up this effort. Do you have any updates for us?
Sure. Well, first, I don't know if I can take all the credit because I'm not very rah-rah, so I'm not bringing in the sales. I'm just taking care of the numbers. I think Jane's doing a lot of the selling. But our latest is we have 10 more 4x8s and 7 8x8s, and then there are 3 kind of in limbo. 2 are actually outstanding from our previous order, so I don't think that they will be paid. I don't think that those bricks will actually be ordered, but the one that just came in, I assume that person is submitting payment. And I did send all of you an update from Polar Engraving that the cost of bricks, they'll go up by $1 a brick, so that'll eat into our profit a little bit, because we will be ordering these after the first of the year, since we'll be ordering them around February. But that's the tally so far.
Okay. I might have one more from the animal shelter. I'm waiting for him. Ronnie?
What's that?
I'm waiting my turn.
Okay. I was just going to say, so the message for folks at home would be that there's still time to grab a brick that they can put in their order now, and then in early February, I assume at the latest by Valentine's Day, we'll be pulling the plug and saying, whatever's been ordered, this will be part of our next shipment, and hopefully we'll have enough to fill up that entire square for spring actual construction.
I have a question about the brick, kind of off topic. It's not really complete, it's not flat.
They are correct.
Can we just make it nice and flat later?
You are correct.
Okay.
I'll address that in a moment.
Okay.
When the bricks were put in, they were put in on a site that had a lot of construction done to it, and so the ground wasn't really stable, although we did bring in a tamper, a vibrating tamper to settle things down. We did get a good amount of rain after the bricks were initially installed, and the one corner of I'm going to call it the northwest corner of the existing bricks has kind of sloped down. The contractor is aware of it. He was supposed to be out, weather permitting, either last week or this week, and he hasn't been out there yet, so I kind of figure he'll be out here by the end of this week, and we'll pick them up and make them level. He will also be setting a beam across the back side of the fountain to add a buttress for the north edge of the bricks, so that when they are finally all in place and sanded, they're not going to move around. And I think by now the ground should have settled appreciably, so I don't think we're going to see any further shifting or problem there. But that's the game plan, and it's not a guess. We have announced at the Township Board meeting that bricks are available, and will be cut off on February 14th. And that, we encourage people to buy memorial bricks. We encourage them to buy whatever they want, and I laughed and said I was the censor, so you can put on it just about what you want. The bricks themselves do look sharp. I think that they do look nice. There were a couple of, I'm not going to call them errors, I'm going to call them just a little bit of a lack of communication. And one brick got duplicated by the photo engraving people, and they both wound up sitting side by side next to each other, so that kind of magnifies things. So that'll be pulled out by the contractor and fixed.
And from what I've been told, the person that bought the first brick was not charged for that duplicate brick, so there's no issue on
It's going to be
that.
pulled out and given back to me. I will present it.
I have a question about maybe a suggestion for a future enhancement, maybe not even a future enhancement, I don't know how much it would cost, but has anybody thought about putting some solar lighting around the edge of it for when people are in the evening there, being able to AC the bricks and then be able to get a drink from the fountain? Because a lot of people use the path at night.
Yeah, we did talk with the Road Runners organization about future enhancements to that area, possibly one of the things that they would be looking into, because they were really excited about doing that right now. We're like, let's wait and get this in, and then maybe in the future we can do something with planning and maybe event.
I'm just curious how much commercial grade solar lighting costs. I mean, is
Not that expensive.
It's not that bad, okay.
Yeah, and that's what, these additional bricks will go towards, as well as, donations from the road runners who were, asking Rob and I, hey, what other projects can we be working on together? Because they're doing fundraising every year, and so they'd like to look at ways that they can improve the paths with us. So it's a great partnership.
Exactly right. I couldn't be more complimentary to a group than the Island Road Runners. Swell people.
It was a good breakfast they brought, too.
I was playing with three little girls. I don't know.
I don't know whose those were.
Yeah, I do.
Moving on, put this under old business because we have talked about it before, but I'd like to start working on a non-motorized plan. And basically, I'd like to form, a subcommittee from this group in order to brainstorm some ideas, look at, the formatting of a document, what topics we specifically want to look at within this plan, and then look at an actual strategy with some dates, some timelines, and then figuring out which stakeholders we need to get involved where, so that way this is more than just a BPAC document, that it'll serve for the entire township and could be used for DPS when they're doing their road projects, could be used with the schools for safe routes to school and other sorts of education campaigns, as well as perhaps used by our law enforcement to educate bicyclists, pedestrians, and motorists about the rules of the road. So, with that, is there anyone that has a hankering, a burning desire to be a part of this non-motorized planning committee? Not everyone at once.
It's usually started out by the guy who does the most talking about it.
Brian, I'm up for stepping up and helping with that. That is going to also assist me on the PAC program, so
Okay.
I do have an interest in it.
I would too, time permitting.
Thanks, Roger.
I would too, but I realize I'll have to keep small numbers for the meetings.
Yeah, and maybe what we can do is we can have a core group and then have people come in and out for different sessions. That way, again, we're in compliance with the Open Meetings Act. And again, any information that we brainstorm within these sessions will come back to this entire commission here and hammered out in detail. Great, thank you, everyone. Moving on to new business, we have an information update on our Promoting Active Communities PAC assessment, and I'm going to turn the floor over to Al on this.
Thank you, Ryan. As everyone knows, we are kind of the overseer of the PAC program. PAC stands for Promoting Active Communities. It's a cost-free program that's set up by the Michigan Fitness Foundation to self-assess our community for the ability to provide activities throughout the community. Basically, it's in 14 different categories and subcategorized into 3 bigger ones: built environment, policies and plannings section, and programs and promotions section. And we evaluate ourselves. We submit it to the Michigan Fitness Foundation by July 15th. We did that, and they replied to us, and they awarded us a bronze level for that. They gave us this class trophy, similar to the one we got last year. It's a beautiful trophy. We'll put that down at Township Hall. Last week I had the opportunity to go in front of the DPS Commission, and I just went in front of them and gave them kudos. On the built environments section of the PAC program, we scored a 70.6%, which is very high. A lot of that has to do with their commitment to assist us in maintaining the bike path and keeping it safe, and really the grunt work of the bike path as far as cutting the grass, maintaining it, making sure foliage isn't in the way, and keeping it in a usable, beautiful condition for the community. So I went in front of them and gave them a kudos last week, and I just want to let them know that we are connected to them and we do work with them on this. The other sections of the program, the policies and planning, we enhanced it this year for our submission. We did adopt the Complete Streets policy. That helped us a lot. 97 communities in the state now adopted that program, and we were one of them, so that was a big step forward. I really thought it would move us into the silver category. We just missed it again by 4%. As we move forward and we work on the non-motorized plan and actually include that into our submission, our assessment, I believe that will move us into the silver category. To give you some idea about the category awards, we were awarded the bronze award. There are 6 different categories from honorable mention all the way up to platinum. Nobody's ever gotten the platinum award. This year there was only 1 community that got the gold award. 3 more communities got the silver award, and then we received the bronze award. So we were in the running for the top 5 in the state, which is something to be proud of. They did not tell us this year who won the gold or the silvers. They started last year with a nice luncheon in the springtime to promote this activity, and we had a nice luncheon, and they announced a lot of things. I think they're holding back that information until that luncheon sometime in March, I believe. So hopefully somebody on the committee, the commission, can attend this luncheon. It's a great time. It's a great network opportunity, and I really, really enjoyed it. Met a lot of neat people, and it was a good time, and I think it really put us in front of a lot of people, and they recognized us, and had a lot of chit-chat about what a unique community we have, and we have the added benefit of having water around us, and it seemed like everybody was envious of that, so I was very proud to represent Roseville for that. So moving forward, I hope that this year, if we can get the non-motorized plan going, we can include that with our assessment for next year, and get bragging rights on a silver award instead of a bronze.
Thank you for all the hard work on that, Al.
Well, this year was a lot easier.
Like I say, it's collecting a lot of information. It's all fluid, too. You can't just plug things in. You have to update because things change. And it gave me an opportunity to learn a lot about the different aspects of the community, from planning to regulating to putting this bike path, the new section of the bike path in. It was all very informative, so I got a lot out of it. So I think I'm a little more sound on my decision-making because of it.
They're going to apply again for the third year?
We can. I just thought we would move into the silver category this year simply because we did adopt the complete streets policy. That was a big step forward, but as far as our policies and planning go, the non-motorized plan is very critical for this because really the biking and the pedestrian use is all based on that. It's based on the non-motorized plan. So we don't really have one yet, but we'll get there.
And do most communities, do they apply when they've had significant changes within things within their locality, or do they apply year after year? So you get a bronze award for 10 years straight.
You know, I really don't know. I do know that they wrote down the demographics of this BPAC program, and they said that since 2000, 151 communities in 58 different counties have participated in BPAC. I don't know if they've continued to do it or if they do it occasionally. What I'm trying to take advantage of is our enthusiasm, and I don't want that to die out. So I continue to do this, and I really hope that we can put together a better package and submit again, and then we can start chasing grants and funding, because that's what this is. We're gaining credentials right now to apply for these grants. So in the big picture, this is something we're going to move forward to, and hopefully we'll get some funding from maybe some state funding, maybe some private grants, we don't know, but we need to start chasing those, and now we have credentials to do so.
I think it's also, a very good PR piece. If you see year after year, Grozeel up at the top of the list for, promoting active communities, then you add in there that, we're, the safest community in the entire state, and that, it's going back a few years now, but CNN had voted Grozeel as one of the best places to live in the entire country. The awards just keep stacking up, and if we can keep Grozeel within the common talks within a lot of the press, I think that does great things for our community, and it gets more people interested in at least visiting here, but potentially moving in and living or establishing a business.
Absolutely. One of the things we did is we put our safest community demographic into our application, and we got 100% from them. And then we scored real low on another program called Crime Watch programs, because we don't have them. I mean, our community is so safe that that's just something we don't even consider. And it was kind of funny. We got 100% on one, and then we bombed on the other because we're to the extreme of the spectrum there. So, it was just funny to see that. But I'm proud to be the safest community, because it doesn't matter how nice our bike paths are. If people don't feel safe on them, they will not use them. And that is a cornerstone to our bike paths, is that you seldom even think about your safety on them. We consider ourselves very safe, and we enjoy the bike path because of it.
Great. Thank you again, Al, for all your work, and thank you to the commissions and township staff that helped you along with the PAC as well.
Absolutely.
Moving on, we got another fun activity to talk about. Jane over here, stepped up after we found out that we would not be moving ahead with a walk to school day event this year in October, and basically, we'd like to have a lot of fun events going on throughout the year. At least in my head, it's like it'd be nice to have something quarterly, and so Jane has been leading the effort on a bike-centric activity to coalesce with our Halloween parade, and I'm going to turn it over to her to talk a little bit more about her activities.
Sure. You want to go up there or there?
Wherever you feel comfortable.
Probably you can see that. Okay. Been a long week. Okay. This Saturday, I'll be starting to host a bike parade along with the regular parade. I was told they never had that done before. So I'm going to do it. So for the people who want to participate this Saturday, decorate the bike, make sure it's safe, make sure the costume don't get caught on the wheel. I have some little things to give to the bikers who participate, and I have some flyers I'm going to throw out to the people. Instead of candy, I'm going to throw out bike safety, Halloween safety, like glow when you go out trick-or-treating at night. And I have some prizes donated from Hardware Store on Gorgia. They're very generous to give me a gift certificate. And the pet on the bed, I want to donate. By me, give me money. So I got some prizes for the bikers that are bike appropriate prizes. So if you want to know what it is, come decorate, be there, decorate the helmet, decorate the bike, and decorate the whole thing. And I'm going to take care of voting for a helmet prize. Would one of you like to help with a bike prize, decorated bike? You want to come and help vote?
I'll definitely be at the event. I might be a little biased since my children might be in the event, though.
Well, like I asked Aaron, you can't vote your own family, but if you can vote maybe an overall bike, you can. Email me, let me know. I'll probably do
I'll be there.
Okay, which one would you like to vote for?
Whatever you need me for, Jane.
Okay.
All right.
We'll talk about it when we get there. So I'm asking the bikers to be there about 10 o'clock. And you will look around and then by 10:15, like 5 minutes before you start walking, okay, the winner is, I'm going to wrap the prize, and we go on from there. And I have arranged the bike rack from both elementary schools, Meridian and Parkland, through BPAC, and they're going to deliver it on Friday after school, put it behind the FW on the northwest side of the parking lot, and they're going to return it hopefully that night, at least by school on Monday. So I got that taken care of. So we pretty much done. This is our first bike Halloween, see how it goes. I'm not saying the multiple yet. So hopefully it'll work out well, and I'm decorating my bike, so I hope you guys will do too.
Oh, yeah.
Any questions?
Who has more fun, you or the bikers?
I like to organize and plan things.
Good job, Jane.
Thank you. I'll leave it just in case.
Other thing that Jane has been doing as part of this, the two of us have been working together on finding a common message and we were creating a flyer that we're going to be handing out to people at the parade that talks about safe practices specifically for Halloween. For those of you that don't know, late October and November are actually the highest months of the year for pedestrian-related crashes. And, some of that has to do with Halloween itself. A lot of it also probably has to do with daylight savings time and the time of the year that it's getting darker. So people are out late still trying to take advantage of the warmer weather, but being darker and not being safe with being seen, wearing bright clothes, having lights, etc. It puts them at a danger. So not only do we have this great fun activity, but we're actually trying to increase safety at the same time. So I'm excited about this and want to thank Jane again for the brainstorming and doing all the legwork on this. So that's all I have for new business. If no one has anything else to add, we'll move into reports and closing. Okay, does anyone know of any upcoming rides or runs to publicize? I know we just had the the marathon last Sunday. I know a few people at my work that participated in that. Did anyone over here participate?
No, but I did find out that the marathon actually recruits bike riders as well. One of my friends participated as a biker to ride with the leaders of the pack, basically, throughout the marathon. And so I thought that was a very interesting thing, and I might be participating in that next year as a rider. Also with that, this Monday, I believe Jane told me, is the last Monday for the slow roll bike ride in Detroit this year. That's a Monday event every Monday from spring till late fall, where they ride various routes in the city of Detroit. So,
Didn't the flower on this Monday, you can decorate your bike. I'm doing my already decorated bike to Monday's slow roll. You can dress up in costume, like our last day. Need a fix, we leave at 6:30, but look on Facebook, slow roll Monday night, and they'll tell you where to meet.
Great. Did anyone participate in the Minion Run, Minion Mile, or the Despicable race? I saw some flyers for that, and I think that benefited the PAT, but didn't have any more details on that. Anything else?
I have one other thing. I gotta stop yelling at it. Last Sunday, I rode a 50-mile bike ride with my boys for their scout badge on cycling, and we had the opportunity to go over to the metro parks, and we rode the Oak Woods, including the connector into Flat Rock to Hurock Park, and then we rode back up through Willow and then Lower Huron, and the trees were changing, and it was a fantastic bike ride, and I can't recommend that enough for anybody who hasn't done that yet. Those three Lower Huron parks do connect to the Lake Erie Metro Park. It's a well-defined, well-maintained path. Seldom do you have to enter the roadway except to cross it. And I just want to put that out there for people to consider if they want to run a great bike ride. You do have to pay to get into the park, but it's well worth it. It's $7 for a daily pass. And throughout the parks they do have restrooms and areas to take breaks, and I can't recommend enough. I was really impressed with the bike path system there.
Mm-hmm. And if you are daring enough, if you want to start from home or start from somewhere else, you can actually ride into the metro parks, and so you can avoid paying that fee if you're a cheap person like me.
Trust me, it was worth the $7. After a 50-mile bike ride, I was glad to see my car parked there.
Now, Arthur, if you bike, do the connector to the top metro park, bike off-road to New Boston, there's a really nice ice cream shop. You
just heard about that, though. You never actually going there.
Oh, yeah, I live in New Boston, so I know. So good I can have antique ice cream scooper out there in New Boston. Check it out.
We'll have to do that ride, Gene.
And next year, Michigan Department of Transportation is going to be redoing the I-275 Metro Trail from Willow Road, basically at the entrance to Willow Metro Park, all the way up to I-94 and over 94. And once that's complete, you're actually going to be able to go from essentially Lake Erie Metro Park all the way up into northern Wayne County and southern Oakland County. On
Like Kensington?
You won't be able to connect to Kensington yet, but you can at least get into the Novi area. Basically, there is some larger plans at connecting up Kensington and all those metro parks to these parks over here and to Groseal. The Governor's Showcase Trail will be looking at probably doing that as well.
When do you predict that connection will be complete? 275, Kensington, when do you predict that?
I can't comment on the connection all the way up to Kensington. I can say that the connection north to the existing part of I-275 Metro Trail, getting into Livonia and Northville, Plymouth area, that will be done this year. I'm sorry, in 2015.
Awesome.
All right.
Cool. Wally, it's time for your report, sir.
Thank you. There's a lot going on in the township, folks. I always found it kind of gratifying to hear, how come the bike paths are cleaned and the roads aren't? How come the bike paths are always in such good shape and the roads are falling apart? You know, the roads falling apart are a national phenomenon, and we have our share of that phenomenon. But interestingly enough, we did get a 0.4 millage passed a couple of years ago, and been able to use that money through the DPS to do some very judicious repairs. And it's allowed us to build up a little bit of a fund balance in the township. For that opportunity when it struck, well, the opportunity did strike a bit. We had a $16 million promise over the course of 2 years from Wayne County to repair local roads. This is not the Meridian, East River, West River. This is the Church, the Knudsen, the Byramar, the Dallas, the roads inside the subdivisions that are really suffering the worst because they've never gotten any attention. We were able to match, by requirement, a 20% match for our share. Many of the other townships that were considered in Wayne County could not come up with match monies or had to take it from the general funds. But we did have our money in a dedicated fund for these road repairs. And so we were able to match $100,000 for this coming season and another $100,000 for the upcoming season. That $100,000 will be added to $500,000 given from the county if they're good on their promises. And we'll be able to do some really sustained, noticeable work to repair some of our roads. And I brought along the package that's called a Local Roads Initiative. I'd be glad to share it with anybody who would like to see it or make a copy. But I made a remark first part of the session that we're going to do more crack sealing than all of Wayne County next year. We're going to crack seal 44,100 lineal feet on 13 neighborhood streets. We're going to do concrete resection in almost 7,000 square yards in 36 neighborhood streets. We're going to do full asphalt, full depth asphalt repair on 6 neighborhood streets. We're going to do some 6,430 yards on 11 neighborhood streets in 2016. Mill and overlay 1,250 square yards on Laurie Drive in 2016. Going to do some drainage improvements in 2016, and there's a project map here for 2015 and 2016. We have committed our dollars from Go to Seal, and here's the list of roads. You can pass it along and take a look at what's going to happen and feel better about the roads. You know, maybe we've hit the bottom of the pit. Maybe we're finally starting to come back. But it's gratifying to me because although we don't have roads under our purview, we do have them under our purview when it comes to complete streets. All right? We do have improvements coming. That's wonderful.
Is this, report or what you're handing us, is this available online for?
It was passed out at the last township board meeting. I believe you can find it on the DPS website.
That's great news.
What you will not see on there is something like Church Road. It's not going to be repaired. It's too far gone. We're going to ride it and ride it and ride it until some way we can come up with fixing it. So, the comments earlier about working on Church Road, making it wide and such, it hits home. We've been fighting about that since I've been involved in township politics.
So, if I understand this correctly, the 0.4 mil that was passed a year or two back to do repairs, that money was used to leverage this other money from Wayne County. We wouldn't be getting that money if we didn't have the match.
If this township's residents didn't have the good foresight to vote that 0.4 mil, the only way we could have matched it was out of general fund. There's more work coming out of DPS, and I'm not going to take away any of their thunder, but there is a concerted effort to do exponentially more road work throughout the entire island, and it's coming, news will come. Be patient and listen.
That's outstanding, and I think that's, a message we need to send to the residents that, granted, it'd be nice to get, everything for free, not have to pay any additional taxes, but with minimal investments, we can leverage even more dollars if we're judicious, with our concerted efforts.
Exactly.
Have the foresight for the planning. So it goes back to, with Al talking about the BPAC program and, looking at the planning with that, looking at our non-motorized plan, and then, teaming up with DPS, we might be able to, to show that there's this plan available and potentially, ask for, some small, millage or some sort of other funds similar to what's been done here in order to leverage grants through the Transportation Alternatives Programs or the Michigan Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund or some of the other projects that are out there.
The days of us getting a millage to build a kitty, to build bike paths that we are not sure that we would place them yet, I think those days are over.
Rightfully so.
But there is going to be the opportunity in the future for people to decide that they want a bike path from point A to point B somewhere and vote it in as a specific millage. And, that's the way townships work at their best. Townships buy what they want and don't buy what they want. So township government works well that way. And I think that's the way the roads are going to work. There's going to be a realization that when driving gravel roads, you're getting close. And nobody wants to pay more taxes, but also recognize that if you spend $6,000 as a township resident over 15 years, it may raise the property value of your house by $60,000. So, it's an investment. And once we start getting a recognition for we're not really throwing it down in lieu of a county doing it for us, we're going to make Rosita a better place to live.
I have a question, though. I'm traveling a lot around. There seems to be very little appetite around here for grinding and recycling of existing asphalt roads. I don't see it going on hardly at all around here. In Chicago, for example, the whole neighborhood where I hang out was basically repaved this spring, and it was in terrible shape. The roads were after the winter. I can't believe that Church Road can't be ground and repaved at an economical price to make it at least presentable for the people that are there. I'm shocked to think that that can't be done.
You may be shocked, but the road has failed so badly now that anything you put on top of it will crumble in a year. There is no support for it.
See, I kind of pushed back a little because the road in front of where I stay in Chicago was literally, there were places that were 2 feet deep and people in cars' wheels were getting bent and everything. They came in and over the course of 2 days came in and ground it, filled what they needed to fill, and then repaved it. And I don't know, I just don't think we have the counties really seems to be too innovative with respect to being creative about how they want to do this stuff.
The county has not been creative, but the county isn't steering anymore. The county doesn't have the money to steer with.
But they do tell you what you can and can't do.
Not anymore.
Really?
Not as much.
Can we go and get those lanes narrow next time?
Can I just tell you a little bit about what is coming? There's a chip seal process coming for several of our roads, several of our connector roads. And it's basically laying down of an adhesive binder and then putting down very fine stone chips on top of it. If you ever cross the Grozio toll bridge, the entrances are chip seals. And they've been holding up very nicely for several years. Bill Kostick and his committee has worked and worked and worked and worked, and they got enough money to do, I think, 15 miles of county road that was supposed to be done this year, but because of weather conditions and late awards of permits, you've heard that before, right? It just didn't happen, so they put it off to next year. You're going to see a lot of fixes next year here on roads. And they're not going to be the traditional fixes, Raj. They're going to be township.
Great. Anything else for Wally on his report?
I give up.
Thanks, Wally. That was great. I'll keep my report quick. I just want to say, first of all, thank you, everyone, for all of your hard work throughout this year so far. We've done some great things. Second thing I want to add in is that my day job, I work at SEMCOG, Southeast Michigan Council of Governments, and we've been working on a regional non-motorized plan for the entire 7-county region. It's a joint plan between SEMCOG and the Michigan Department of Transportation, and that has passed several of the big committees and commissions and done the review. So later on in November, it will be going before our General Assembly and will be a formally adopted document. That document in draft form is available on our website right now, semcog.org. And over there you can look at the actual document as well as maps. And I bring this up specifically because Grozio is included within this longer-term vision for the regional non-motorized network. It's specifically linked in with the downriver-linked greenways. As I mentioned before, there's interest as part of the Governor's Showcase Trail in bringing people out here and to explore this wonderful island. So this is yet another tool that we'll be able to use and leverage when we're talking about grants. So I especially encourage everyone in this commission to take a look at it when you got some free time, but encourage everyone else at home to look at it as well. I think we can get a lot of pointers on things that we can be looking at for our own non-motorized plan within it. That's all I have. Yes, sir.
Just one question, if you've heard it on the SEMCOG level. A couple days ago on the radio, I heard about an initiative to take the state 6% sales tax and devote it 100% to road repairs. And if the state officials can't decide amongst their own, they're talking about putting it on the ballot and letting the people decide. Have you heard anything about that?
I think I heard the same report as you. It's an initiative by the State Chamber of Commerce, and they've been advocates for greater transportation funding for, as long as I've been working at SEMCOG, so going on 10 years now. And I'm not sure about all the details on that. Would I be considered, for road funding? Would bicycle and pedestrian projects potentially be a part of that? I would think that it could be. So the devil's in the details, but as well as I, that sometimes villages themselves, the wording on an actual initiative might have unintended consequences, but at least I think it's a good first step in hopefully getting our legislators more interested in passing something more comprehensive, because it's really needed.
All I'm asking is for everybody to keep their ear to the ground about stuff like that. We need to be on top of that. Don't forget to vote, by the way, November 4th.
Great. With that, can I get a motion for an adjournment of this meeting?
Motion.
Any support?
Support.
Roger? Right, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, everyone. Walk, bike, and drive safe.